A very warm hello to all my viewers. Today's video is titled Karma or Coincidence, and by the end of it, each one of you will be answering this question for yourself. This is the first in the series of videos where I'll be sharing my experiences, which were shrouded in mysticism, which I encountered on my way to writing this book. Now, this first one finds mention on the first page of my book. In fact, my book commences with it, and it reads like this. Some 20 years before I met you, our destinies were entwined in a knot. When I put my signature on a sale deed for a house that you and Mama bought, how my signature on that document came to be cannot be attributed to probability, because that probability is so remote. If we examine, then it would surprise evoke. Now let me develop on this further. The year is 1986. I am a young captain posted in the Armored Corps Entrance School, Ahmednagar, which is a small town 120 kilometers from Pune in Maharashtra. I am proceeding on annual leave to go and spend my 2 months with my parents at our ancestral home in Haryana. I reach Delhi on a night train. I disembark and come and spend the night at my sister's house at R.K. Puram. Next morning when I am leaving, my sister asks me if I am amenable to witnessing a property sale document. I say I have no problems. I sign the document, put my signature on it, put my name and enter my sister's address as the local address. The year is 1986. I have no idea as to who is selling the property or who is buying, because it is no concern of mine. Having done this, I leave. Let us call this event number 1, and remember the date is 1986. Now fast forward to 2004. I am again at my sister's house, and her daughter-in-law drops by and she asks me to accompany her so that she would introduce me to somebody. We go to Escorts Heart Center, where I meet Madhuri Kapoor. Her mother is admitted in the hospital. She is, of course, in a private room. We meet in the lobby, we have a cup of coffee, and we exchange phone numbers. After that, I leave. I am in touch with Madhuri thereafter. Her mother passes away a few weeks later. We both wed in the same year in July. Let us call this event number 2. The year 2004. Time span between event number 1, event number 2, 18 years. Now, after marriage, we are living in Noida in a rented accommodation. We decide to buy our own. In order to do that, Madhuri sells a flat in Horse. I sell my flat in Gurgaon. We pool our resources together to buy a residential property in Noida. This purchase happens in some time in 2006, and this property then goes into litigation in 2010. Let us call this event number 3 in 2010, when the property goes into litigation. When I say property, I mean Madhuri's horse cast property, which she had sold. Now, the case is in the court, the hearings are continuing, and we are at 2014. It happens to be one day of our hearing when we are sitting in the court with our lawyer and chit-chatting, waiting for our turn to be called. The lawyer has a file on his lap which he is examining, and he then asks me a question saying, "Colonel, is this signature on the sale deed of 1986 yours?" And I look at that signature, which now appears like a bit of a boyish scrawl to me, but yes, undoubtedly mine. My name is there, my signature is there, my sister's local address is there, and the year is 1986. It was that day that it was brought to my attention that the document which I had signed in 1986 was actually being purchased by Madhuri and her mother. I am both astounded and somewhat amused. Now, this was not relevant, this information was not relevant with regard to the case, but definitely was very interesting to me as a bit of private information. Now we move, let us call this event number 4. The year is 2014. The time span between event number 1 and event number 4, the time when I signed the document and the time when it came to my revelation, is 28 years. Now life moves forward, we come into 2019. Unexpectedly, after a short illness, Madhuri passes away. Between 2019 and 2022, a series of supernatural events unfold in my house and in my life. They all get documented in a diary, which then develops and finally is written, published as a book, and which is now going to be released this year in September. Let us call this event number 5. The time span between the first event and event number 5 is 37 years. 37 years is a very long time in the average lifespan of any individual. It is half a lifetime. Now, having said all of this to you, I put a simple question, uncanny or not? And your obvious answer would be uncanny, no doubt. I then put another question, uncanny and coincidental or uncanny and divinely karmic? Now, this reply may vary somewhat depending upon the nature and strength of your beliefs. But if you were to ask me, my answer would be uncanny and divinely karmic. Now, let me explain how. Firstly, let's look at the probability factor. What was the probability factor of me being in Delhi that day to sign a document which was a sale transaction between two parties, neither of which I knew? I was not a resident of Delhi. I was posted in Ahmednagar, 1200 kilometers away, but I journeyed that day and then came to my sister's house where there was a requirement of a witness, and I witnessed that document. It could have been done by anybody else. The probability, I would say, would be 1 in many million, but it happened. The second probability, what was the probability that Madhuri and her mother would be purchasing this property and I would then wed Madhuri 18 years later? Both the probability that they were purchasing this property and that I would wed her, again the chances would be 1 in many million. So here there were 3 occasions. It could not have been chance because it was happening a one too often. So I would again say that there was a divine karmic plan being laid out for me. Now let us look at the propensity. There are 5 events, each one connected with the previous, almost like a domino effect, happening over a span of 37 years of my lifetime. Now the question to be asked is, if an event or a series of events interconnected can be spaced out over 37 years, do they have some story to tell me? At that time, no. They had no story. But when the 5th event got completed and a series of supernatural events between 2019 and 2022 happened in my life, then I revisited all these events, event number 1, 2, 3 and 4, mentally in my mind many times over. And it was then that gradually, after searching my mind and searching my soul, that I finally got the answer. There was actually a large divine plan in this, and this is the message that God was giving me. God was saying, I'm sorry, I could not give you more than 15 years together, even though I connected you 18 years before you both wed. But I promise to make it up for you in your next lifetime. That was the story I was getting through the series of these events. And they helped me to further perpetuate the theory of, or rather the end game that is in my book of reincarnation and reunion in our next life. Now I leave you with the question, karmic or coincidence? Thank you.